There's an island in the Caribbean that has always felt larger than its borders. A place where rhythm meets resilience, and where the world's imagination has long stopped at the sound of reggae, the scent of jerk chicken, and the sight of turquoise waters. But behind that postcard perfection, a quiet revolution is underway, one that could redefine not just Jamaica's image, but its destiny. For decades, the island's greatest strength, its people, has been held back by one persistent challenge: infrastructure. Winding, narrow mountain roads turned short distances into exhausting journeys. Trucks struggled to deliver goods across rugged terrain, students walked miles to school through unpredictable weather, and coastal towns lived in isolation, disconnected from the rest of the island. Jamaica wasn't lacking talent or ambition, it was lacking connectivity. That is until now. The Jamaica you thought you knew is changing fast. Across the island, bulldozers roar, cranes rise, and a new web of highways, tunnels, and bridges begins to stretch from Kingston to the farthest coasts. This is not just about roads. It's about redesigning a nation, about unlocking opportunity, mobility, and pride. The government's modern vision, backed by billions in local and international investment, aims not merely to repair old routes, but to build an entirely new national network, one capable of powering trade, technology, and tourism for generations to come. At the center of this transformation stands a project so ambitious that it's already being called the heartbeat of Jamaica's new era, the Southern Coastal Highway. Stretching an impressive 140 kilometers, this mega artery connects Kingston, the capital, to the island's eastern edge. But to call it a highway doesn't do it justice. It's more like a lifeline, threading together communities that for decades were cut off by impassable mountain roads and flood-prone valleys. Imagine driving from Kingston to Montego Bay, a trip that once took nearly 3 hours, in barely over an hour. Imagine farmers in rural parishes like St. Thomas being able to deliver fresh produce to urban markets before sunrise, or tourists exploring Jamaica's untouched eastern coast without fear of getting stranded. That's the kind of transformation this project brings. The Southern Coastal Highway doesn't just move cars, it moves lives. Beneath its sleek asphalt lies something even more profound: 248 kilometers of brand new water pipelines and 140 kilometers of fiber-optic cables. Every mile of this highway doubles as a technological and social artery, carrying not only vehicles, but also clean water, electricity, and high-speed internet. It's a road that quenches thirst, connects businesses, and bridges the digital divide, turning asphalt into opportunity. This integration of physical and digital infrastructure makes Jamaica's highway system one of the most forward-thinking in the developing world. It means that a child in rural St. Thomas can one day take an online course without lag, a small business can reach global markets, and an entire region can rise together, connected by road and by data. But the story doesn't end in the east. To the west, the bustling city of Montego Bay faces a different challenge. A problem born not from neglect, but from success. As Jamaica's tourism capital, Montego Bay welcomes millions of visitors each year. Cruise ships dock in its harbor, planes land at Sangster International Airport every hour, and luxury resorts sprawl along its white sand beaches. Yet, all that prosperity has come at a cost: traffic gridlock so severe it can paralyze the city for hours. That's why the government launched the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project, a $274 million engineering marvel designed to reroute heavy traffic around the city's congested core. When complete, this 14-kilometer bypass will not only ease congestion but also transform how people and goods move through western Jamaica. Its crown jewel will be the Montego River Bridge, an architectural masterpiece and the longest bridge in the nation's history, spanning 180 meters. When it opens in 2026, it will stand not just as concrete and steel, but as a symbol of Jamaica's determination to modernize, one bridge, one community at a time. What makes these projects remarkable isn't just their scale, but their strategy. Each is part of a unified national plan, linking ports, airports, and industrial zones into one seamless transport ecosystem. Together, they form the skeleton of a new Jamaican economy built on speed, efficiency, and innovation. And there's something quietly revolutionary happening on these sites. Thousands of Jamaicans, engineers, welders, electricians, and laborers are gaining advanced certifications while working on these mega projects. For many, it's their first formal training in construction technology or road design. This is a story of empowerment as much as it is of engineering, because every road being built is also paving the way for a new generation of skilled workers, men and women who will carry the torch of modernization long after the asphalt cools. Nowhere is that progress more visible than on Highway 2000, the original backbone of Jamaica's infrastructure revolution. Once considered an impossible dream, this highway now slices cleanly across the island's mountainous interior, connecting Kingston to the north coast city of Ocho Rios, a route that once took 2 nerve-wracking hours through twisting mountain passes. Today, that same journey takes under an hour on a road so smooth it feels like gliding. Highway 2000 didn't just shorten distances, it shortened inequality. It brought business from urban centers into rural communities, gave rise to logistics hubs in parishes like Clarendon and Manchester, and allowed farmers and truckers to transport goods safely and quickly. And the expansion continues westward, laying the foundation for what may soon become one of the most advanced road systems in the Caribbean. But while Jamaica's roads are transforming, something even more symbolic is happening: a resurrection of the railway. For much of the 20th century, Jamaica's rail system was legendary. Built in the 1840s, it was one of the first in the Western Hemisphere, carrying sugar, bauxite, and passengers across the island long before cars became common. But by the early 1990s, economic decline and neglect brought it to a halt. Stations were abandoned. Tracks grew over with weeds. The once mighty trains of Jamaica became ghosts of history. 3 decades later, that silence is breaking. The Jamaica Railway Corporation has announced a long-term plan to bring the trains back, and this time, they're coming with purpose. In 2025, a 15-year freight contract was signed to move over 1 million tons of industrial goods annually, from limestone and aggregates to cement and construction materials. Freight rail might not sound glamorous, but it's the cornerstone of modern logistics. It cuts down on road wear, reduces fuel emissions, and allows the highways to be used more efficiently. In short, the return of freight trains is making Jamaica's transport system not just faster, but smarter and greener. The plan doesn't stop there. Once freight operations are stabilized, Jamaica intends to revive passenger services, connecting commuters, students, and workers from Kingston to Spanish Town, from Montego Bay to Mandeville, and eventually, across the entire island. Imagine a daily train service carrying thousands of passengers while easing pressure on congested highways. It's a return to a proud legacy, modernized for the 21st century. And then there's the dream that has everyone talking: the tourism railway. Picture this: a luxury train gliding through Jamaica's Emerald Hills, the scent of sugarcane drifting through the windows, the rhythmic clatter of wheels against steel blending with reggae melodies in the background. The route would connect Montego Bay to iconic attractions like the Appleton Estate Rum Distillery, turning travel into an experience in itself. This is the vision, not just to rebuild what was lost, but to reimagine what's possible. Every project we've explored so far, the Southern Coastal Highway, the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, Highway 2000, and the Rail Revival, is part of something larger, a national transformation powered by data and design. Because beneath every highway and bridge lies a digital spine, fiber-optic cables threading through the concrete, linking rural towns to global markets, and setting the stage for a smart nation. The idea is simple but powerful. Physical roads carry goods, digital roads carry opportunity. Together, they form Jamaica's new economic circulatory system. And strategically, Jamaica's geography gives it a golden advantage. Nestled near the Panama Canal and along major Atlantic trade routes, the island sits perfectly positioned between North and South America, a natural midpoint for global shipping. With the Kingston Freeport Terminal, one of the Caribbean's deepest ports, now directly linked to the expanding highway and rail systems, Jamaica can finally do what geography always promised: become the logistics capital of the Caribbean. Ships from Asia or Europe can offload containers in Kingston, where goods move seamlessly onto trucks or trains bound for factories, airports, and neighboring islands. In essence, Jamaica is building what few island nations ever achieve: a multimodal transport ecosystem where sea, road, and rail work in perfect harmony. That's not just infrastructure. That's strategy, a deliberate move to rival logistics giants like Panama and Singapore. And as billions of dollars pour into construction through public-private partnerships, the real payoff is not only in concrete but in confidence. The government estimates that these projects could generate over 100,000 new jobs, directly and indirectly. Each one represents a story: a mason in St. Thomas, an engineer in Montego Bay, a vendor in Clarendon, all connected by this vast web of transformation. This is what happens when a country stops seeing roads as expenses and starts seeing them as investments in identity. For the first time in its modern history, Jamaica isn't simply reacting to the world economy, it's shaping its own. The South hums with the rhythm of construction. The West prepares to ease its traffic pains with bridges of progress. And the North, always the gateway for tourists, is now turning into a hub for trade, technology, and connectivity. Jamaica is no longer content to be the Caribbean's playground. It's building to become its powerhouse. As the sun sets behind the blue mountains and headlights trace their way along the newly paved coastal roads, a realization emerges. This is not just development. It's rebirth. A rebirth built on concrete and code, steel and software, motion and meaning. But the story doesn't end here. Because beyond the construction sites and investment figures, a much deeper transformation is taking shape, one that fuses technology, trade, and human potential into something revolutionary. And that's what we'll uncover next. As dawn breaks across the island, sunlight glints off freshly laid asphalt, cranes hum to life, and Jamaica's new arteries of progress stretch farther every day. But what's truly remarkable about this transformation is that it isn't just physical. It's digital, strategic, and deeply human. Behind every construction site, every blueprint, and every government announcement lies a vision to build not just roads and bridges, but an economy without borders. One that connects the farmer in St. Thomas to a buyer in Europe, the student in Clarendon to an online university in Canada, and the entrepreneur in Montego Bay to investors across the Atlantic. This is Jamaica's new frontier, a nation that's fusing infrastructure with intelligence and mobility with opportunity. The Southern Coastal Highway, the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, and Highway 2000 might be the physical veins of this transformation, but flowing through them is the lifeblood of the digital age: data. The same cables that run under these roads are connecting villages that once relied on radio towers to the global internet. And that means something profound. It means Jamaica is no longer just building highways for cars, but superhighways for ideas. The government's plan is not just to connect cities, but to create smart corridors, zones where fiber-optic internet, renewable power, and high-speed mobility converge. Imagine a future where traffic lights adjust automatically based on flow data, where cargo trucks transmit real-time tracking information to ports, and where digital payment systems make tolls and trade instantaneous. This is the new Jamaica, efficient, intelligent, and globally linked. But as any nation that has ever rebuilt itself knows, transformation doesn't come easily. It comes with challenges: financial, environmental, and social. The question for Jamaica is not if it can modernize, but how to do it sustainably. That's why many of these projects have been structured as public-private partnerships. International firms bring in expertise and capital, while local companies handle labor, logistics, and community engagement. It's a model that ensures Jamaica retains control of its assets while benefiting from foreign investment. And the scale is staggering. Over the past decade, infrastructure spending has exceeded $5 billion, covering everything from roads and bridges to port modernization and renewable energy. Yet what's more important than the money is the mindset, a growing confidence that Jamaica can plan, fund, and execute world-class projects on its own terms. Take the example of the Kingston Freeport Terminal, the largest container port in the Caribbean. Once an underutilized asset, it has now been transformed into a strategic logistics hub. Massive gantry cranes rise over turquoise waters as ships from Asia, Europe, and the Americas unload their cargo. Containers move seamlessly from ship to truck, and soon, from ship to railway, thanks to the integration of transport corridors under the National Development Plan. This alignment between ports, highways, and railways is what makes Jamaica's vision so powerful. It's not just a series of disconnected upgrades, it's a coordinated system designed to move goods faster, cheaper, and smarter than ever before. In effect, the island is positioning itself as the Caribbean Singapore, a central node in global trade where location meets innovation. And geography is Jamaica's hidden superpower. Sitting just a few hundred miles from the Panama Canal, the island occupies one of the most strategic maritime positions in the Western Hemisphere. Cargo ships from Asia passing through the canal can dock in Kingston to redistribute goods throughout the Americas. The new highway network ensures those goods can reach airports, factories, and neighboring ports in record time. It's a setup that turns Jamaica into the gateway between continents, a bridge connecting the Atlantic and the Caribbean economies. To grasp how monumental this shift is, you have to look at the human side. For years, rural Jamaicans watched opportunity slip by as industries concentrated around Kingston and Montego Bay. But with new roads cutting through once isolated parishes, the story is changing. Farmers in St. Thomas can now reach city markets in half the time. Young professionals can live in affordable communities outside urban centers and still commute efficiently. The movement of people is changing the map of opportunity. And with connectivity comes education. The rollout of fiber-optic cables along highways means schools and universities across Jamaica can now access reliable broadband. Online learning, digital entrepreneurship, and e-commerce are no longer dreams for city residents alone. A young coder in Portland Parish can build an app that serves clients in London or Miami. A teacher in rural Clarendon can live stream lessons to students across the island. These are small revolutions that add up, a silent, digital uprising that mirrors the physical transformation happening in concrete and steel. Yet, as Jamaica surges forward, one of the most fascinating aspects of this transformation lies in its return to the rails. When the Jamaica Railway Corporation halted operations in 1992, few believed the system would ever return. The old engines were left to rust, and the nation turned to buses and trucks. But now, with freight trains preparing to move millions of tons of goods every year, the railway is poised for its greatest comeback in a century. It starts with freight, limestone, cement, gravel, bauxite, materials that fuel construction and export. But over time, the plan is to integrate passenger routes, reconnecting parishes through affordable and eco-friendly travel. The long-term goal is to develop intermodal stations where buses, trains, and taxis meet, creating a national network that rivals modern transport systems in larger economies. And for tourism, the possibilities are endless. Imagine luxury carriages gliding through the Jamaican countryside, offering visitors a journey from Montego Bay to Kingston with stops at historic estates and scenic valleys. The Appleton Estate Rail experience could become one of the Caribbean's most iconic tours, blending heritage, leisure, and innovation. It's nostalgia reborn for a new generation, and a major step towards sustainable tourism, which is now a central goal in Jamaica's 2030 development vision. Speaking of sustainability, these projects are being built with the future in mind. Roads are designed to withstand heavy rains and landslides. Smart drainage systems are being installed along highways to prevent flooding. Solar-powered lighting and electric vehicle charging stations are slowly being integrated. The goal is simple: to make Jamaica's infrastructure not just strong enough for today, but resilient enough for tomorrow. And then there's the economic ripple effect. When new roads open, communities thrive. Small gas stations become busy centers. Food stalls appear where workers stop for lunch. New schools are built near residential zones. Real estate values rise. It's an ecosystem of progress that spreads outward, each kilometer of highway becoming a corridor of opportunity. One of the most powerful examples is the parish of St. Thomas. For decades, it was known as one of Jamaica's most neglected regions, beautiful but underdeveloped. Now, thanks to the Southern Coastal Highway, it's on the brink of an economic awakening. Land values have surged, businesses are opening, and residents who once left for Kingston are returning. In just a few years, the parish could become a model for balanced regional development. But beyond economics lies something deeper: national pride. For many Jamaicans, these megaprojects are proof that the country can take charge of its destiny. For years, international headlines painted Jamaica as a nation defined by tourism and debt. Today, it's being redefined by engineering and innovation. The narrative is shifting from survival to strength. Still, every revolution faces skepticism. Some critics question the cost, others worry about foreign influence, and environmentalists warn of the risks of overdevelopment. These debates are valid and necessary, but they also reflect something positive: a national conversation about growth, accountability, and independence. That dialogue itself is a sign of progress. And while the rest of the world debates, Jamaica keeps building. The hum of engines along the new highway has become the soundtrack of transformation. Trucks carrying materials for new resorts, housing projects, and industrial parks now move with unprecedented speed. Tourists who once complained about long, winding journeys are finding themselves whisked from airport to beach in under an hour. Every bridge, every tunnel, every stretch of asphalt represents one clear message: Jamaica is open for business. The island's trade ambitions are already catching global attention. Logistics companies from China, the United States, and Europe are scouting investment opportunities. Shipping lines are expanding their routes to Kingston. Even regional partners like the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago are exploring new transport collaborations. Jamaica is no longer just part of the Caribbean economy, it's becoming its center of gravity. But perhaps the most inspiring part of this story isn't the highways or the cranes. It's the people. The thousands of Jamaicans who wake before sunrise to pour concrete, lay cables, and design systems that will outlast them. The young apprentices learning digital construction techniques, the female engineers breaking barriers on site, the small business owners adapting to new traffic flows. These are the real builders of Jamaica's future. And for the first time in decades, optimism feels tangible. It's in the energy of the streets, in the conversations of taxi drivers, in the confidence of young graduates who no longer feel they must leave the island to find opportunity. The roads being built aren't just connecting towns, they're connecting dreams. From the roar of trucks on the southern highway to the whistle of trains soon to return, Jamaica is composing a new national rhythm. A rhythm of progress, of motion, of self-belief. So, what does the future hold? By 2030, experts predict that Jamaica's modern transport system will be among the most integrated in the Western Hemisphere. Freight will move directly from Kingston's deepwater ports to industrial zones in Clarendon and Montego Bay. Passenger trains will link key cities, easing pressure on roads. Rural areas will have broadband connectivity that rivals urban centers. And tourism, manufacturing, and digital services will together form a more balanced and resilient economy. In other words, Jamaica is building not just for today's travelers, but for tomorrow's innovators. There's a powerful symbolism in all this. An island once known for its mountains, physical barriers that separated people, is now using those same mountains as a canvas for tunnels, bridges, and fiber lines. Where once geography divided, technology now unites. And as the sun dips behind the blue mountains, the hum of engines fades into the distance, replaced by a sense of awe. Because what's happening here is not just development, it's redemption. Jamaica, once underestimated, is proving that a small nation can dream big, plan wisely, and execute boldly. From asphalt to algorithm, from bridges to broadband, every project tells the same story: that this island is no longer content to watch the world move, it's determined to lead the movement. The transformation unfolding across Jamaica is more than a tale of infrastructure, it's a declaration of identity. It's the sound of a nation finding its rhythm again, not through music this time, but through machinery, progress, and purpose. So, the next time you think of Jamaica, don't just picture the beaches or the reggae beats. Picture highways cutting through lush hillsides. Picture bridges arching over blue rivers. Picture trains rolling past cane fields under the morning sun. Because this is the new Jamaica, connected, confident, and unstoppable. And as the world begins to take notice, one question remains. Which will define Jamaica's future more, the highways carving through its mountains, or the trains reviving its soul? Maybe the answer isn't one or the other. Maybe it's both, working together to create something far greater. A Jamaica that is no longer defined by where it's been, but by where it's boldly heading. A Jamaica on the move, building its way into tomorrow.